Hi guys, and welcome to my ode to the KV-1S. Now, unless you've been living under a rock or have been taking an extended break from the game, you'll know that the KV-1S is going to be getting some severe nerfs when 9.3 hits. So what's going to be happening to the KV-1S in 9.3? Well, on the surface, not that much. It's still going to have the 122mm D25 gun. It's still going to have 175mm of penetration, and it's still going to have that incredible 390 alpha damage. But there have been a lot of nerfs. The DPM on the tank is going to be reduced. At the moment it's around 1500 damage per minute, but it's being reduced to around 1200. It's also getting a reload time nerf. The basic reload on the tank at the moment is about 15.5 seconds. So that is being increased to just over 19 seconds. So the reload time is getting a huge nerf. Now again, with equipment and with a very good crew and maybe the brothers in arms skill, you'll get that reload down to around 16, maybe just under 16 seconds, but it's still going to be a significant nerf. So because the rate of fire, or because the reload time has been nerfed, obviously the rate of fire has also been nerfed. So at the moment it fires roughly about 4 shots a minute. That's going to drop down to about just over 3 shots a minute, resulting in the DPM decrease. However, there have been other nerfs. The gun accuracy has been nerfed. At the moment it is 4.6, but it's actually being nerfed slightly. It is going to get a slight accuracy nerf, and the aim time at the moment is 3.4, and again that is going to be getting a nerf. But the figures for these exact nerfs are a little bit strange, because it's basically saying, the figures I've dragged up so far, it's saying the gun accuracy is being nerfed from 0.44 to 0.46, but the stats in-game in 9.2 are actually showing it at 4.6 already. Also, the information says that the aim time is being nerfed from 3.2 up to 3.45, and again in-game at the moment it's showing the aim time at 3.4. So I'm not exactly sure what the exact figures are going to be. As I say, there's a lot of information out there, and it seems to change quite frequently, and as with wargaming, all changes are never final until the patch actually hits. So even though the recorded information for the nerfs on the accuracy and aim time are saying they're being nerfed, the figures we've been given are basically showing that it's pretty much the same as currently in-game for the stats on the gun. So I can't really explain it, but long story short, it's going to have an accuracy and aim time nerf. There have also been another couple of ninja nerfs. Shooting on the move has been buffed, but shooting when swinging your turret has been nerfed. Really have no idea how that's going to affect the performance of the tank. A big difference to the KV-1S in 9.3 is that the KV-1S currently in-game was never ever historically accurate regarding its gun depression. This tank, at the moment, 9.2 and all the previous patches, it has 8 degrees of gun depression. That's better than a lot of American tanks. Historically, this tank only had about 4 degrees of gun depression. But the KV-1S in-game at the moment, prior to patch 9.3, is able to use hills. It's able to use its gun depression. It's able to poke, fire shots, and reverse back down into cover. That is not historically accurate, and the gun depression is finally getting a nerf in 9.3. It's getting a little bit more of a severe nerf than I thought, because, as I say, historically it seems to be 4 degrees is the gun depression on a KV-1S, but it's being nerfed to 3 degrees. So we're being nerfed from 8 degrees down to 3. It is a very significant nerf. So you're going to be wanting to use this tank on flat ground, and if you're used to playing the KV-1S, there's going to have to be some major playstyle differences due to the fact that the gun depression is being nerfed so badly. You are getting exactly the same engine power, but the tank is being made a little bit heavier. It is going to be increased from about 44 tons up to about 46, maybe 47 tons. So even though it's going to have the same engine, it is actually going to be a little bit heavier, which might actually affect the acceleration On the point of speed, basically the top speed has been nerfed as well. At the moment it's got a 43 km per hour top speed. That's being nerfed down to 34 kilometers an hour, so the tank is going to become significantly slower as well as heavier. However, the reverse speed is being buffed. Yes, finally a buff for the KV-1S. Basically it is currently 11 kilometers an hour in reverse. That's being increased to 14 kilometers an hour. Again, how it's going to affect how people play the tank, I have no idea. Its terrain resistance has actually been improved, so it may be slower, it may take longer to accelerate, but it's going to actually travel a little bit better over rough ground because, as I say, the terrain resistance has been buffed. And another minor buff, it might be significant, it might not, is that the view range currently on the tank is 330 meters. That's being increased to 340, so it's not going to be quite as blind. So to sum up, the KV-1S is being nerfed by a hell of a lot. There are a few buffs that have been sneaked in there, but mainly it's going to be slower, it's going to be less accurate, it's going to have a slower rate of fire, it is going to have better view range and better reverse speed, but as I say, a much slower top speed. It's going to be heavier, and it's the biggest difference for me is it's going to have major gun depression issues with only 3 degrees of gun depression. Is the tank going to be worth keeping? Well, we're just going to have to play it and find out. But the other big change for the KV-1S is the fact it is being split. Now the beloved KV-1S may be getting a name change. It may be becoming the KV-85, but there's still going to be a KV-1S in the game because there's going to be a new Tier 5 Russian heavy tank, and it's going to be called the KV-1S. And again, it's going to be called the KV-1S because it's using the 1S hull, but it's going to have a different selection of guns, and I actually have no information about the turret. But mainly the big difference is it's going to be a Tier 5 with a different selection of guns. It's not going to be getting the 122mm D25, thankfully, because that would be hideously overpowered at Tier 5, but it is getting a 122mm gun at Tier 5, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a moment. Basically, the KV-1S at Tier 5 is going to be getting a gun that is very rarely used. It's the top gun on the KV-1S at Tier 5 is actually not a bad gun, but it doesn't get used on any tank as far as I'm aware, because even though it's been in the game for a long time, absolutely no one uses it. And it's a gun that's found on the T150 at Tier 6. So a Tier 6 gun on the T150 is now going to be the top gun on a KV-1S at Tier 5. As you can see, it's a Tier 6 gun, and the gun we're going to be looking at is the 85mm S31. That is now going to be the top gun on the KV-1S at Tier 5, and it is a great gun. This gun is also available on the KV-3 at Tier 7, but it doesn't lead anywhere, so I don't think I have ever seen any player use the S35 on a KV-3 because you completely bypass it to get to better guns and a better turret. But as I say, it's been in the game for a long time, but very few people actually use them because the final guns are much better. But it's not a bad gun, so it's finally going to get some use as the top gun on the KV-1S at Tier 5. As you can see, it's an 85mm. It fires 12.5 rounds per minute, which is fantastic. It's got a really nice rate of fire, and again, with crew, with equipment, you can get that down. It's got 119mm of penetration, which is actually okay. It may not sound great, but it's a Tier 5, and that will do just fine against most Tier 5s, most Tier 6s, and will struggle a little bit with Tier 7s, but the premium ammo isn't bad either. 159mm of penetration with premium ammo means that yes, I think the gun will be competitive even when you're up against Tier 7s if you're willing to fire some premium rounds and have some on your tank. 160 alpha damage is okay. In fact, it's very good when you compare it to the rate of fire. This is a really good gun. The accuracy is okay, and the aim time is actually pretty good. In fact, the aim time on the Tier 5 version of this gun, according to the information I'm looking at, is actually better. The accuracy is 0.4, so it's better than it is on the Tier 6 T150. The aim time is 2.6, which is better than it is here on the T150. So it's actually going to be a better gun. High rate of fire, decent penetration, nice alpha damage, very good accuracy for a Tier 5 heavy, and decent aim time. Not great. Aim time is probably the weakest part of the gun, but 2.6 is workable again with equipment and crew skills. So this is going to be a little monster. It basically means that it's going to have over 2,000 DPM. Over 2,000 DPM on a Tier 5 heavy. That is insane, guys, and I'm calling it now. Really am. The KV-1S, as we know it at Tier 6, is getting nerfed, and overall, even though it's gotten a couple of buffs, I think this tank is going to be performing a lot worse, and I think a lot of people are either going to sell theirs or basically just stop playing it. But I think that there's a new monster. I think the KV-1S that's being introduced at Tier 5 is going to be an absolute monster. But it's not going to be overpowered just because of the gun. So we're going to be using Tank Compare to look at the KV-1. Now unfortunately the Tier 5 KV-1S doesn't exist here, but I'm making a prediction. Based on the information we have about the KV-1S at Tier 5, I predict that a lot of players are going to be selling their KV-85 at Tier 6, and they're just going to be moving their crews into their brand new KV-1S at Tier 5, because I think the KV-1S at Tier 5 is going to be hideously overpowered, and not just because of that amazing DPM that the gun can put out. There are a few other things that are different. Yep, it's going to have the same tier, see the same tanks, and probably cost about the same as a KV-1. We all know how strong the KV-1 is, but from what little we know about the Tier 5 KV-1S, it's going to have more hit points. It's going to have 660 hit points. The armor on a KV-1 is very, very good. 75mm on the front and side, and 70 at the rear. But the KV-1S is going to be more lightly armored, but not by that much. It's going to have 60mm of frontal armor, and I believe about 50 on the side, and I have no idea about the rear. So it's going to be faster, it's going to be more mobile, it's going to have slightly less armor, but not by that much. I don't have any information about the signal range, but the speed limit is going to be faster. It's going to be a faster, more mobile version of the KV-1. It's going to be faster. And one of the reasons I think it's going to be a monster is not only is it going to be faster, but its weight is also being increased. It's going to be 44 tons. Now, that's not that much lighter. We all know that the KV-1 is a ramming monster. When you can get uphill and you can use the KV-1 to ram tanks, it does it very, very well. Well, the KV-1S is going to be faster, and it's going to weigh not much less. So not only are you going to have a really, really good gun with amazing DPM, but you're going to have a faster, more mobile tank with pretty decent armor, and it's very heavy. So I think you're going to see a lot of KV-1Ss ramming other tanks to death when it comes to Tier 5. It's also going to be seeing tanks as low as Tier 2. I mean, the KV-1S at Tier 5 is going to be seeing Tier 4s, it's going to be seeing Tier 3s, it's even going to be seeing T2 lights. Yeah, this is going to be an absolute beast at Tier 5. And it doesn't stop there, because it's got a better engine. It's got a 600 horsepower engine, which means it accelerates faster. It's got a better horsepower to weight ratio. It's actually close to 14 compared to 10 on the KV-1. It's got faster traverse speed. It's going to have 30 degrees per second of traverse speed, so it's going to be able to turn faster. Oh yeah, it's also going to have better view range. The view range on the KV-1S at Tier 5 is going to be 320 meters compared to 310 on the Tier 5 KV-1. So I really do think the KV-1S is going to be considered overpowered pretty much within hours of being released in 9.3. I think a lot of players are going to be crying about nerfing the new KV-1S at Tier 5. Just a prediction, and I hope it doesn't come to pass, but with the stats we've been given so far about this new KV-1S at Tier 5, I really don't see it being considered balanced at all. So let's talk about the guns on this new KV-1S, and unfortunately I don't have a KV-1 in my garage at the moment. I really do need to rebuy this tank, but it's going to get the same stock gun as the KV-1. So it's going to start out with the 76mm ZIS 5, which is okay. I mean, it's okay. It's a decent stock gun as far as stock guns go, 76mm. And its top gun is going to be the S35 85mm from the T150 that almost never gets used or gets used very little. However, I did say earlier in the video that the Tier 5 KV-1S is going to be getting 122mm, and yes, it is. It's going to be the 122mm that the KV-1 also uses. Now, if you know anything about this gun, you'll know that it's a short 122mm. In other words, it's a derp gun. And we know how devastating the KV-1 derp gun is. In fact, a lot of players use it on the KV-1 as their gun of choice. But yeah, it's going to have a derp gun. So you're going to have KV-1Ss that are fast, that are mobile, running around Tier 5 games with a choice of either insane DPM and ramming tanks to death, or insane derp and ramming tanks to death. So it's getting this gun, 122mm short, and I really think no matter which gun players decide to use on the Tier 5 KV-1S, it's going to be overpowered. I really hate getting derped by KV-1s, and it's now going to be happening with the new KV-1S at Tier 5. So as always, everything I've talked about today is subject to change. We actually won't know the final details until it hits the live server. Just going on rumors, just going on leaked information from the beta testing and the super testing. But yeah, I really do think that the KV-1S, as we know it, is going to cease to exist. I think the KV-85 at Tier 6 that the KV-1S is going to become is really going to be a pass-through tank. I think people will play it simply to move on to Tier 7, and they'll probably end up selling it. And I think that there's going to be a new overpowered monster, and that is the KV-1S at Tier 5. Now, if you've been following my stream for quite a while, then you'll know that there are two Tier 6 tanks I think are hideously overpowered. The first being the KV-1S and the other being the Hellcat, and both of those tanks are getting severe nerfs in 9.3. I've already covered the KV-1S nerfs, and the Hellcat is also getting a lot of nerfs. I don't think I'll be covering that, but all that information is freely available on the World of Tanks forums or on For the Record. But this is my ode to the KV-1S, and as I say, I don't play this tank very often, and I don't play the Hellcat very often because I think they're overpowered. And the way I define an overpowered tank is when I'm bottom tier, do I mind getting into higher tier games? Do I mind getting into a Tier 8 game if I'm in a KV-1S? And the answer is no. Or do I mind getting into a Tier 8 game if I'm in a Hellcat? And the answer is no. Even the KV-2 in some regards is overpowered because that's another tank I don't mind getting into a Tier 8 game, but KV-2 is a little bit more of a challenge. It does have a few more weaknesses than the KV-1S or Hellcat have, but I have kept every single game I've played in World of Tanks all the way back to 8.5. And just to prove that I don't play very many games in the KV-1S, I checked, I went back, I did a search through all my replays all the way back to 8.5, and I haven't even reached double figures with the amount of games played. However, I have played 7 games, a whole 7 games in the KV-1S since 8.11, so from February, early February of this year, I have played 7 games in the KV-1S, which is actually about 4 more than I thought I'd played, but I don't play it very often, and I'm going to show you why. And this is my ode to the KV-1S, and it's just me kind of enjoying what the KV-1S was prior to its nerf, or future nerf. And I'm bottom tier in this particular game, and on Ensk I'm a Tier 6 in a Tier 8 game, but again, I have no fear. And really, I suppose, as much as I think this tank is overpowered, now that it's being nerfed and is going to be nowhere near as strong as it was at the moment, or is at the moment, I am going to miss it. I didn't play it very often, but I am going to miss it because of games like this. So this was my first game in the KV-1S in 8.11. There we go. Tier 8 heavy tank shot into his side, 401 damage. So maybe that was luck. Maybe that was luck. Oh no, I'm reloaded. PZ-38 NA moving across and perfect shot. This gun is so accurate and it just packs an absolute punch. And with decent crew skills, you can get some really, really nice damage done very, very quickly. So KV-2 up here, is he going to poke? Yep, he's going to poke. And we get a shot, track him, leave him for another 392 damage. So I'm on 1100, almost 1200 damage. I've only fired 3 shots. So KV-2 dies before I can actually get another hit in. And I decide to relocate because there are tier 8 heavy tanks in town. And I have no fear of tier 8 heavies. So there's another KV-1S to my right, but let's poke this corner. 110, he's preoccupied. And I aim that shot really, really badly. Snapshot, tried to track him in place and end up hitting his beak. So first bad shot from me. But he's back again. He's moving, need to get him in the side, and there we go. 383 damage on a tier 8 heavy tank. Oh, Tiger 2 moving across, but no! Tiger 2 is no match for another KV-1S who takes him out. These tier 6 heavies just tearing these tier 8 heavies apart. Get another shot into the 110 for another 351 damage. So there we go. I mean, basically for the rest of the game, I don't get to kill anyone or shoot my gun because all the enemy tanks die before I get there. But yeah, this game is just under 3 minutes old. I've already done 1900 damage and I'm a tier 6 in a tier 8 game. So my second game in a KV-1S in 8.11 was this game. I remember this game. This game was played on stream and we're top tier. And again, this tank is just so fast, it's so mobile. Really guys, if you haven't gotten a KV-1S by now, I would advise grinding it really, really quickly so you get to experience this tank before it becomes a tank that people just have to grind through to get to the next tier. But we are moving forward and we're top tier, so I'm going to be aggressive and I'm not planning to stop until I have to. Because even though I'm in a heavy tank, I'm almost as fast and mobile and maneuverable as a medium tank. So there's a PZSFL in the distance. There we go, shot in the move. Don't even bother to stop and aim. Take him out, 350 damage. This thing is just an absolute beast. And it's kind of watching videos like this, I'm kind of a little bit more nostalgic that I didn't play more games in the tank. But I just think, yeah, it's just overpowered. And for the exact same reason I don't play games in the Hellcat. Even though I enjoy the tank, I don't play too many games in the KV-1S. So this is Churchill 1 advancing. Don't have much to aim at. Oh, just his turret. Oh, he stopped. He's actually aiming. So there we go. Snapshot. Shot goes exactly where I want it to go, and we've just gotten kill number 2. So there's a KV-1S who's decided to sit in the open. Almost reloaded. Let's pop the corner. Barely aim. And kill number 3. So again, we're going to speed it up. Reloading again. Nashorn down here, but he's going to die before I can get any shots in. So we're at... Oh! Artie just tried to hit me? Alright, well, I'm going to have to do something about that. So I'm just advancing, and I'm not planning to stop. No shots on that PZ in the middle. Enemy tanks are dying too quickly. Oh, SU-100. And he was moving too quick for me to get a snapshot in, but yeah, never going to get a shot down there. I may have amazing gun depression, but I am never going to kill him. So we're just continuing to advance. 2 arty on the enemy team. I'm on 3 kills, top tier. Just being spotted. Oh, there's one of them. He's trying to run, so 1-hit kill on arty. Now there's a KV-1S here. He's not AFK, but I'll always try and kill arty before I kill anyone else. So there we go, kill number 5, and I'm on a reload, and Bringy gets the kill, and I don't get Top Gun. But yeah, I do remember that game. It was played on stream, and after this game I said, right, well, that's the last game I'm going to play in the KV-1S for some time, and it was. So you guys are probably getting the message. Speed and maneuverability, we've moved up to 9.0, but speed and maneuverability, yep, KV-1S has that at the moment. The ability to snipe, yep, KV-1S has that accuracy and that ability too. Able to 1-hit kill lower tier tanks. Yep, KV-1S has that ability too. Firing on the move. Yep, KV-1S can do that as well. Great gun depression. Yep, KV-1S has that too. And the ability and ability to take out tier 8 tanks and no fear. Yep, KV-1S has that too. So guys, yeah, that's pretty much the highlights of the few games I've played in the KV-1S since 8.11, since February, and this is just an amazing tank to the point where it's overpowered. I will never say I didn't enjoy playing the KV-1S, because the KV-1S is an amazing tank. It is a lot of fun to play. It is overpowered, but that doesn't mean it's not fun to play. And now that the KV-1S is disappearing as we know it, I'm maybe a little bit sad that I didn't play more games in it, but that was my ode to the KV-1S. I don't know whether to be happy it's getting nerfed or be sad that it's never going to be as good as it currently is. But thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.